dog thieves just a little leery, because they never know when a man's going to pick up that dog's and look in that dog's ear and see Edward's initials in there, or mine, or something like that. Even, well, how did you come with this dog? It's a help.
What happens to dog thieves around here?
Well, to tell you the truth, we just don't have much of a problem in this area. We sure don't.
Your dad and Bill Heron were saying a man had seen his kill a man over his dog as his wife sometimes, kind of half joking. But
that's exactly right. One of the park rangers, that's what one of the guys there from Illinois asked him. See, that's running deer with dogs, you know. And they said, I guess you'd be allowed to kill these boys' dogs running these deer, wouldn't you? And the park ranger said, well, I'm going to tell you the truth. He said, I'd just soon shoot at your wife and shoot at one of them dogs. And that's about right. He wouldn't last long. I don't think he would.
They, due to the fact that running deer with dogs in most of the areas, now in the south, you take in Louisiana, and in Arkansas, you can pursue deer with dogs. But in the western countries, boy, they will shoot your dogs there. But
why do you
here they're not supposed to pursue them with dogs, but the game wardens and the people, now listen, that's a practice there.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of deer there, and the population isn't being hurt.
Why do you suppose that dogs mean so much to people in this culture and in Georgia and southern?
Well, it's just I'll tell you, to me, I can come in from work and be wore out, just aggravated, and go hunting and have a good race and come home and be in a good humor. That's what it is. It sure is. And lots of people, they just rely on that dog. A guy coon hunts, he may rely on that dog a lot of it for his living. And that, just the love of animal, I guess.
A lot of men, they come home, or before they get home, they'll stop at the neighborhood bar, and that's their thing. They stop at the bar and have a few beers, and maybe come home and eat, and go back to the bar that night and spend some time there. Well, I'd way rather go feed my dogs or get up and go have a fox race than to go to the neighborhood bar and drink that stuff that they have there. It's of course, that's one leverage I maybe hold with my wife. Edward and I say, well, there's other sports that we can pursue that men have. Now, take your choice. We don't necessarily say that in so many words, but it's kind of an unwritten law that we're going to do something now. So if you stop us from fox hunting and make it, put the pressure on hard enough, you never can tell what we might break out to do.
Well, I know you what.
Edward, he can hold that leverage a little better than I can. I'm 62 now.
You see very few hunters that you ever see into it for anything. That you notice most of the boys, if they're raised up hunting like that, where they get out and have sport, don't just have to stay in town and like that. You see very few of them, that you ever see in trouble.
I'd tell my boy, I raised a good boy, and he's never given us a bit of trouble. But I'd tell him, now listen, son, you go to the pool, or you go into that pool room, and you shoot pool, you do all the things that a boy needs to do, and you establish your values in life. But don't stray too far now, and don't stay too long in that pool hall, and don't let it grow on you. There's other things, but you need to know all of these things, and I encouraged him to go. I'm just using the pool hall as an example, but to make it in life, you need to know and become familiar with all the walks of life, and you'll come near picking out what's the truest thing and the best for the inside of you to do, if you'll familiarize yourself with all of them and not just follow one. Don't care what it is. Don't stay right strict to a fox hunt, or don't stay close to a coon hunt, or don't stay close to a beer joint. You do it all, and then pick you out one. Pick out what you think's the best for you, and will make you feel better by doing. And you'll do the right thing, and it worked.
What do you think about that?
Well, I think that's right. For me, like I say, I hunted my kid up, and I've never drunk a drop, never did taste liquor of no kind. I just never did. And I just think it keeps them out of a lot of meanness. Well, I'll tell you, if a kid, if he ain't got nothing else to do, boys is going to get into something on the average.
You ever get into anything?
I ain't too good sometimes.
I take it you, neither one of you'd want to raise your kids anywhere else. What about raising kids in the country?
Well, to me, I guess, I think he's right, because I was raised there. But it's just, I'll tell you, the people in the country are just a little different than they are in town. On average, if you go to their homes, I'll tell you go to a lot of houses in town and like that, and they don't care what kind of language you use or nothing like that, and down here on average, people are gentlemen enough to try to respect the women, and I think it should be. And I think you're raising kids, girls or boys, I think they ought to be raised respectfully.
When well, I have 3 adopted children, and we got our 2 boys when they was 1 day old each, and then my girl was 2 years old when we got her. But I owned a package store and lived in the back end of that package store, a liquor store, and when my children got I believe they was, my girl was 5 and my boy was 6 or 7, why I sold that package store and bought a farm, because I wanted to raise my boy and my girl both out on the farm. And I kept that farm till my boy graduated from college and my girl got married. And then we adopted another boy, but in about the time we adopted my boy, my second boy, why I'd already sold my farm. So we moved to town. But I chose to raise my children on a farm too. And I'm not saying that they would have turned out any different if I'd raised them in that package store, but in my opinion, they could have. And it just wasn't my idea of raising one in a liquor store. There's kids been raised in liquor stores that's just as good as mine. I'm sure of that. But if something had gone wrong, I just said, well, if I'd handled it different, it'd have turned out different. And I'm real pleased the way that they turned out. And I believe that I contributed to their well-being by moving to the farm, because I know my boy, he's an engineer, and I learned him how to use an axe and a chainsaw and everything, or he learned it there. And well, he went to Rolla up here, and one day he told me, he said, Dad, I've always wondered why in the world you wanted me to learn to use an axe and a saw and learn to do those things. And he said, I found out. He said, as an engineer, he said, some of those boys, they wouldn't know how to chop anything. They wouldn't know to hit an axe at a certain angle to make it cut better. And he said, some of those boys that was training to be civil engineers and electrical engineers and different types of engineers, why, he said, why, they couldn't do anything like that. And he said, I was way ahead of him. It was a big help to me just to learn how to use an axe and know how to use an axe or a chainsaw or a crosscut saw. And he said, I'm sure glad that you taught me to do all that. Well, my girl, she was a little backward and shy, and other girls her age they was way ahead of her. Well, I bought her a horse, and that's one thing she could do. And she could do it better than they could, girls at her age. Well, boy, it made her, just being able to handle that horse. And she thought a little bitty girl like me handling a great big horse, well, that boosted her ego, and she owns a horse right now, and I have a grandson. She has a boy, and that meant so much to her. And that boy of hers, he's a little cowboy, because she thought, boy, that meant so much to me, to my social life, to my good way of the things that I valued when I was growing up. That horse.